here at the cabinet room. We've had these press briefings for the last 7 days now, since the ravages of Tropical Storm Erika. You heard us here last night. Tonight, we have another full team here at the cabinet room. Seated at the table already is the Prime Minister, Ministers Reuben Blackmore, the Attorney General Levi Peter, Dr. Colin McIntyre. Tonight, presenting here at the cabinet room, Mr. Lucian Blackmore. He will be the chairman of the proceedings here tonight. We also have the General Manager of the WASCO, Bernard Etinoff, General Manager of Domlec, Batilia McKenzie, General Manager of Lime Dominica, Jeffrey Baptiste, Country Manager, Digicel, Richard Stanton, Engineering Manager, Mapping 2K4, Peter Banis, Director of Telecoms, Mr. Thomas, that's Bennett Thomas, the Chief of Police, Daniel Carbon. There will be some questions from the media here. Melvin Paul, the head of the GIS, is also seated at the table. A number of other people, media people here at the cabinet room for yet another press briefing. I think I have overstayed my welcome here. It's time to get to the Prime Minister, Mr. Richardson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Matthew, for your usual introduction. I want to greet all citizens and residents listening and viewing via live broadcast of this yet another press briefing, and of course to our citizens in the diaspora, our well-wishers and benefactors. I want to greet all of you and bid you a good evening. Tonight we focus in on two elements of the post-Erika response, one with the utility services, and also with the state of the security of the state. And that will be presented by the Chief of Police, Mr. Daniel Carbon, and we have representatives from the various utility companies, Duasco, Mr. Bernard Etinoff, the head of Duasco, General Manager of Domlec, Mrs. McKenzie, the General Manager of Lime, Mr. Jeffrey Baptiste, Mr. Richard Stanton of Digicel, Mr. Peter Banis, Mapping 2K4, and Bennett Thomas, Director of Telecoms, and of course the press briefing will be chaired by the Senior Permanent Secretary, Mr. Lucian Blackmore. I want to welcome all of you here, and of course the media, for your usual promptness and in your responsibility of disseminating the information to the wider public. Before I pass on to Mr. Blackmore, I just want to say that I visited the residents of Pidisavan who are at the grammar school yesterday, and today I did an extensive tour of the entire Pidisavan constituency and Granby, of course with the exception of Pidisavan. But Bacatel and Font-Saint-Jean, Dubic, Stowe, Pichler, Marathon Square, then we Bellevue Chopin, and also visited the residents of Jubic who are all at the facilities in Granby, and also some of the residents from Pidisavan who are also in Granby. It was very heartwarming to note that they're all in high spirits, you know, and that is important. And while these people would have lost everything that they would have worked for so many years, including loved ones, they're hopeful, they're upbeat, they recognize that it is bad, but it could have been worse. And they're prepared to work together with all of the necessary state agencies in their resettlement and rebuilding efforts. So it was very heartwarming to recognize that they're all in high spirits, the children, the parents, the grandparents, you know, and including those who lost loved ones. It's an amazing demonstration of resilience, and I think that is what has been helping us thus far. The depth of the resilience of the Dominican people, that in the face of despair, in the face of destruction, they are hopeful, and they're prepared to work and to rebuild our country to the state it was prior to August 27th. So I want to thank again all of you who've been doing a wonderful job. I want to thank the telecommunications and the utility companies. I mean, when you look at what you inherited on the morning of the 28th and what you have done thus far, for a small country like ours, with limited financial and human resources, and the terrain that your men and women have had to traverse to restore, to a large extent, a substantial part of the infrastructure. It's amazing, and I want to thank you profusely on behalf of the Dominican people, because utility services are important for all of us. Water is important, lights, being able to make a call and send a text. Those things are important. Be able to watch TV and see what's happening. All of these things are important, and I really want to thank you for making life a little bit much better for many of us. I came from using a couple buckets from next door to bathe, to having water flowing in the shower. So there's progress being made, and so. But I will pass on to. In face of all of this, you have to smile and you have to laugh. Otherwise, you're in trouble. So it's important for us to make a joke or two once in a while. So I want to, and he shall.
Honorable Roosevelt Skerritt, Prime Minister of the Commonwealth of Dominica. Honorable Dr. John Colin McIntyre, Minister of Economic Planning and Development. Honorable Rayburn Blackmore, Minister for National Security, Justice and Immigration. Honorable Levi Peters, Attorney General. Ambassador Steve Farrell, Cabinet Secretary. Mr. Daniel Carbon, Commissioner of Police. Mr. Bernard Etinoff, General Manager of Dawasco. Mrs. Batilia Mackenzie, the General Manager of Domlec. Mr. Jeffrey Baptist, the General Manager of Lime. Mr. Bennett Thomas, the Director of Telecoms. Mr. Richard Stanton, Country Manager for Digicel. Mr. Peter Barnes from Markin 2K4. Also want to say a special welcome and good evening to Mr. Davis Slater, the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Justice, Immigration, and National Security. I also want to say a very good evening to the press in here, members of the media, the general public. Of course, this evening, today marks the 7th day after the event of Tropical Storm Erika. And of course, as the Prime Minister rightly said, it has taken a tremendous amount of collaborative effort, hard work, and determination from us as a citizen. And I think it gives me even greater pleasure this evening to chair this forum because it marks the tremendous collaborative effort between the public-private sector partnership. And you would see the listeners, of course, viewers, that most of the persons on the panel this evening are from the private sector. And of course, it really speaks volume for us. As the Prime Minister rightly said, the public utilities and so security marked very essential areas and services for the country. As we know, water is life, and we know for the last few days the tremendous calls we have been receiving where the areas are still without water, and the dire concerns and needs for us to really move in us very speedily. Of course, power generation is another very essential area. So is telephone, so is internet, and of course, cable television. And I said cable television because sometimes we are of the view that cable television is primarily for entertainment. But I think Mr. Stanchion and so much so Mr. Barnes will tell us the various communities in this country that still rely on the television as a radio for effective communication. So we have had all essential services here tonight. And what we'll seek to do is to give you an idea, an appreciation of the extent of the impact of the storm, what has been done in terms of restoration of the services, what is left to be done, and how we intend going forward on this. And without any further ado, I would really want to call onto the microphone at this point Mr. Bernard Etinoff, the General Manager of Dower School, to give us more insight in terms of what has happened for water restoration.
Thank you very much, P.S. Blackmore, Honorable Prime Minister, Honorable Ruzel Skerrit, Honorable Dr. John Colin McIntyre, Honorable Rayburn Blackmore, Honorable Levi Peters, Commissioner of Police, other permanent secretaries, managers of the other utilities present here, Director of Telecoms, other officials, the media, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Prior to Tropical Storm Erika, Dowa School provided water to 98% of the population of Dominica. And with the completion of the Bells-Penrice-Sylvania water system expected at the end of this month, that would have brought coverage of water throughout Dominica to about 99.5%, near 100%. And the 5% that would be left are a few isolated cases where persons live in areas that are just difficult to reach. Tropical Storm Erika affected 100% of the Wasco water systems. In other words, there was nowhere in Dominica that was not affected. We are pleased to report that about 59–60% of all these systems have been restored, providing water to about 70% of the population of Dominica at this time. The damages suffered by the Wasco systems or inflicted through the Wasco systems were blockage of intakes by heavy boulders and heavy siltation. In certain cases, intakes concrete structures are severely damaged. And that is the case for Water Area 1, for example, that serves the communities from Miru to Castle Comfort, including Roseau and all the environs there, Warner and Campbell. We are happy to report to date that the intake at Springfield has been cleaned totally. We had to use, in some cases, 24 men getting into the river since heavy equipment could not operate there. And water has been restored in Water Area 1. So areas from Miru to Castle Comfort, Lower Castle Comfort, I must say, is having water at this time. Part of the problem we are having in this water system is the indiscriminate use of fire hydrants and standpipes around the city, in Canefield, in Newtown, where persons indiscriminately connect hoses to those pipes and wash down their yards and wash down the streets in spite of our appeal not to do so. We understand the need for the city to be cleaned and for their homes to be cleaned, but we also understand there's a greater need for persons to be able to get some water at their homes. And so we have appealed to the public not to engage in this indiscriminate use of the standpipes and fire hydrants. In higher areas as Santa Roma, we have been using our water truck to distribute water to the communities, but I'm happy to say that we have taken certain measures as of last night by shutting down most of the system to allow for the build-up of water that we could reach the higher elevations. And as of today, we were able to send pipe-borne water to the community of Santa Roma. We'll continue to truck water to other areas as Fortney, Upper Kings Hill, where as of now we still have some difficulties reaching. Among the systems that we have been able to restore is the Bellevue Chopin system, restored to 100%. Cassie Bruce, 95% as at this time. Clifton, Capuchin, Cottage, these areas have been restored, approximately 95% restored. Cochrane has been restored 100%. All of the Kalinago territory is now receiving 100% water coverage. Wharton Weaven has been restored using the old Wharton Weaven intake, but the Wharton Weaven system prior to the storm served Wharton Weaven, Trafalgar, Focani, Shufford. We are now working on the system, on an old system to restore an old system to serve Trafalgar, and we are anticipating that by Sunday of the 1st of next week, this weekend, Sunday, we would be able to serve Trafalgar, Shufford, and Focani with some water. Full restoration will not happen for some time, but at least people would be receiving some water by the 6th. The La Plaine system has been restored with the help of the community, and for that we are very, very grateful. The area of Layu has been restored 100%. Lubia Wallhouse system, Point Michel, was the very first to be reinstated, and that is still doing very, very well, and we are extending this to serve the people of Leopoldville. About 50% of these people are being served as we speak. The Paybush system again was restored with the help of the villagers, for which we are very, very grateful. The WASCO, however, had to go in there and ensure the integrity of the system and extend the system to serve the people of Mopak and as far as Thibault. Penville reinstated 100% with the assistance of the community. Community members were able to retrieve the pipes and began even joining those pipes before the WASCO got there. Portsmouth and surroundings 100% reinstated using the old water intake. As you may be aware, prior to the storm, we had just completed the installation of a new water system for the West Coast from Capuchin to Salisbury, using two intakes, one on the Picard River and one on the Coolibistry River. Both of those new intakes were taken out of commission by the tropical storm. Coolibistry, I must say at this time, there's real difficulties there, and we cannot say just yet how soon that system will be reinstated. However, Picard, we are working on Picard with the assistance of ACE Engineering, and that new intake will be reinstated soon, and hopefully we'll be able to serve areas of Koliu and Coolibistry not too long from now. Soufriere Scott said 100% coverage again, and Thibault and Dodan has been reinstated as I indicated. Warner, we're able to pump water to Warner as of yesterday. The people at Warner are now receiving water again. Campbell, we have pumped water to Campbell, the storage tank is filled, and as of late this afternoon, we're repairing 2 leaks so that we will open the system to serve the people. So I'm sure before we leave here tonight, the people of Campbell would be receiving water. Good Hope, Mapo, Tranto, St. Pidit, Soufriere, all these areas are receiving water from the WASCO. Granfer, again with the community assistance, people have been receiving water, people have been served. A section of the Monjon pipeline was washed away, that has been replaced, and about 90% of Monjon is now receiving water. In the Granby community, we are again having some difficulties, and a section of that community is being served from Hagley. So we would say that 35% of all of Granby is being served at this time. That section represents about 35% of the Granby population. We are, however, very pleased to report that with the assistance of the Red Cross, we may be able to serve the upper reaches of Granby and Tetmon using temporary storage tanks, transporting some water, and installing a temporary water plant which would treat water and distribute to the communities of Granby. The newly constructed Benz intake and pipeline suffered severe damages, but we have begun work on that system, and by Sunday we are hoping that that system will again be serving the people of Benz, Anzime, and Ansola. We have completed repair works in the Kalibishi area, and by the 5th of this month, which is Saturday, the people from Kalibishi should be receiving water. In fact, we were hoping to have done that today, but there seems to be some airlock on the system, and once that is addressed, the people will be receiving water again. There are, well, the people, the community of Coptol should receive water tonight from WA1. Just a while ago, the men were completing a pipeline link to WA1 so that we could serve them from the Roseau water system. There are some areas that we have not made much progress, and these are Bagatelle, Forceja, Petit Savan, Dubic areas. As a result of access, we could not have done very much there. Buitika and Delis. And I'm happy to report that a team from the WASCO visited Delis with the use of the Venezuelan helicopter today, and the report is very good that there's no damage to the intake, no damage to the pumps or to the pipelines. And so once the silt is cleared, we can begin pumping water to the community of Delis. So we anticipate within 2 days that will be done. Kolihu, Kulibistri, Biosh, Dubla communities heavily affected. We will be in a position to restore water to Dubla and Biosh within a few days, and we are anticipating by the 7th of September water will be restored in this community. Kolihu also by the 7th for makeshift intake. Kulibistri, it's not that hopeful for Kulibistri, but we are hoping that we'll be able to serve from the Picard intake once the intake is up and running, and the river crossings leading to Kulibistri could be accessed. Girardel also suffered significant damages. We have to construct a road to access the intake and realign some lengths of pipes along the pipe route. But work on that system has begun. We have been able to get a heavy equipment in there, and we're hoping sometime early next week we could reinstate that system and the people of Girardel would begin to receive water. Major difficulties in the area of Wesley, Woodfordale, and Marigot. Where used to be a road is now a serious gully, and several lengths of 10-inch ductile iron pipes in the valley have been dislodged. But we are hoping that we can do something for that community by Monday the 7th of September. Salisbury, we met with a delegation from the Salisbury community this morning, and the villagers are offering their assistance to get pipes to the intake to assist us in doing a temporary intake, which we intended to do. And so we are hoping that by the 6th we can restore some water to the community of Salisbury. This also is water and also sewage. Our sewage network has also suffered some damages in Roseau, in Canefield, and in Jimmet. We are now in the process of replacing the pipeline under the Bathestate Bridge. That's the sewer pipeline under the Bathestate Bridge that has been dislodged, about 7 lengths of pipes there. We are now 50% complete as we speak, and hopefully sometime tomorrow we would see the completion of that sewer pipeline. This we look forward to because it would at least minimize the contamination in the Roseau River so that even persons downstream could use the water in the Roseau River after that is completed. Attempts to access the sewer outfall in Jimmet proved very will be able to function. The sewer lines at Canefield have been cleared and the system is operational as we speak. And the sewer lines adjacent to the Dominica China Friendship Bridge have to be repaired, and this we are waiting the assistance of the Ministry of Public Works due to the sensitive nature of the road and bridge network there. So all in all, the WASCO is happy that with the assistance of the government of Dominica, with some persons from the community, with our friends from Venezuela, some assistance from the British to do some works in the Dubla, Biosh, Colliu and Sals and Coolby Street area, and also the Wesley Woodford Hill area, that water will be restored to all communities within a reasonable length of time. And we are just asking for the patience of the community persons who have not yet been able to receive water, just to bear it a little longer, do whatever is necessary, and water will be restored shortly. We want to thank the men and women of the WASC who have been out there night and day, I mean midnight on the fields in water trying to restore water. It's a tremendous effort for which we are very, very appreciative. Again, thanks to all.
Thank you very much, Mr. Edinoff. I think he explained to you the impact on the level of restoration in terms of about 59%, but I think also it would be necessary to take into context the number of households affected and the percentage of restoration to date. I think there's around 37 of the sub-networks of Dawasco was impacted, and today over 27 of those have been back in some sort of restoration process. So I think it's a tremendous effort. There's still quite a bit of work to be done, but I think of the spirit and the resilience, we'll continue to get it done. I also want to take a brief moment to recognize in our midst a very noble, selfless Dominican in the name of Miss Jamie Alain, who have been doing a very meticulous job of doing the logistics for movement of the badge. And I think I was really given a very rude awakening and a very pleasant surprise when I was told it was only a matter of voluntary service she was doing this matter. I think all the guys from the utilities really appreciate the tremendous effort and level of cooperation she has been doing, sleeping sometimes on couches, I understood, in Portsmouth. Yeah. So well done, Ms. Arlene. I think we really want to give you a tremendous round of applause for your contribution here. Also, I want to recognize in our midst a very active member of the Public Utilities Committee, Mr. Nicholson Dodd from Rubis. And also, I cannot overlook our distinguished National Disaster Coordinator, Mr. Don Corriett, and the other experts, disaster response experts we have in our midst. And with that, I want to pass on to Mistress Mackenzie to give us some sort of further insight into Domlec's restoration. Ms. Mackenzie.
Good evening, everyone. Honorable Prime Minister Mr. Roosevelt Skerritt, Honorable Dr. Colin McIntyre, Honorable Reuben Blackmore, Honorable Levi Peter, Cabinet Secretary Mr. Steve Farrell, Commissioner of Police, Ms. P.S. Blackmore, P.S. Leighton, colleagues from the utilities and our suppliers, Mr. Dodge, Jamie, Disaster Coordinator, Mr. Corriett, members of the media. But at this time, I want to take the opportunity on behalf of Domlec to commiserate with the persons of Petit Savan for their loss and the other communities as well. We too at Domlec have lost one of our employees as a result of Erika at Petit Savan. He passed away in the disaster, and we also have another employee of ours, Mr. Richard Barron, who was hospitalized but has been discharged from the hospital, but he's been housed with us at our house in Monbrose. And so at this time as well, I want to big up all my Domlec employees, particularly my linemen, my technicians, my engineers, all of Domlec staff, and all of Dominica, here and abroad. My report will look at two areas: generation and transmission and distribution. Let's look at generation first. For the diesel power stations, that is Sugarloaf and Fonkole, were relatively unaffected. The same cannot be said for our hydro system. At Luda, we had initial flooding caused by the overwhelming of the barrier drainage system by debris. And so although the flooding was not as extensive in Luda, as we had first thought. Trafalgar, unaffected except for a little bit of debris. But Padu is the one where we have some problems. Currently, we are undertaking cleanup so that we can do assessments. The diversion weir and the intake facility piping system at Trafalgar, which feeds Padu, was severely damaged and undermined by the river. The HV switchgear building and transformers unaffected. The turbine house at Padu, the retaining wall and outlet weir system have been damaged to the roof. Internal flooding through mud and debris. And as such, we've not been able, because we've not been able to fully clear out, we've not been able to determine the integrity of the generating sets themselves. And so when the cleanup has been concluded, we will do that. The Clark River system, where and there's no supply to the freshwater lake from Clark's River for the hydro. And we've had issues for the generation with the fuel supply system, but because of the badging, this has been working very well. And so I will not really go into that. Another issue I want to highlight, though, is the fact that because 2 of our employees who live at Paradise Valley were affected, 2 of our operators, we've had operating staff issues at Fokuli. And so Domlec has been impacted. So that's generation. I know most persons want to hear distribution. That's what people want to hear. 9,511 customers never lost power during the event. 73.5% of our customers were affected by Erika, and we are pleased to report at this time that 97% of our customers have power, and our customer base is 35,588 customers. 8 out of our 10 feeders were affected in whole or in part. 6 of the 8 feeders have been fully restored. We know that we've seen significant damage to homes and the LV circuits in Kulibistri, Koliho, Rivière Syric, Czech Hall Valley, Resource Estate, Petit Savan. We had difficulty accessing Dalis, but because of the use of the helicopter, we were able to make it to Dalis, and Dalis now has power. So the Portsmouth feeder is fully restored. The Belfast, they have been fully restored. Sugarloaf East feeder is not fully restored. We have a break in our HV net, and the airport has been isolated because we still have areas like Stowe and Point Kerry, Bagadale, which are without power, and these are being dealt with even as we speak. So at this time, I need to give us an update of the areas that are without power. And these are Dibic, Stowe, Fort Saint-Jean, Bagatelle, Petit Savan. We are currently working on Dibic and Stowe. Our guys are in those areas scouting. The intention is to, especially in Dibic and Stowe, by the end of the day, to power up Dibic and Stowe. Clark Hall. There are down poles at Clark Hall, and access to provide repairs is still problematic, and so repairs are pending. Kulibistri. There are down LV poles at Kulibistri. Work is presently ongoing there. Some areas of Kulibistri, like Plaza Wheel, does have power. We're trying to give power to that area just a little bit above the cemetery. That area there is not compromised, so we're trying to give power there at least by tomorrow. And so Hartford Estate, we repaired today. Upper Larond, we repaired today. Rivière Syric, Montjean is without power. Well, some areas of them are without power, because even when we reconstruct the HV system, the LV system, there are areas that will still be out. And so we will continue to work to deal with that. Formel, on the route to Castle Bruce, there's a spur line feeding a settlement deep into the valley that had to be isolated, and it needs to be scouted. Despo. Also, there's a small area in Despo which has been affected due to a downspan of ABC wire. This is being addressed and will be resolved shortly. In that though your area may be energized, because of certain issues that we may have with certain sections, we cannot energize. And so Paradise Valley in Bath Estate and Checkhall Valley have been energized. However, due to the effects of the water on the electrical installations, a large number of customers have been isolated because of flooding to their homes. And so we really will not be able to reconnect these customers because the electrical installations have been compromised. And from a safety issue, we will not reconnect. And so these customers will really need to go through the procedure of having their homes recertified by the electrical division in order to be reconnected. The same will apply to Kulibi Street after restoration has been done. We want to point out too that there are a few large customers who we had to isolate, meaning to say they don't have power, due to damage, and that's the Melville Hall Airport, Marcus Rum Factory, Layo Valley Inn, and Petro-Carib. As I said earlier, we've restored 97% of the island, but an estimated 1,070 customers continue to be affected. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Mackenzie. I will now call on Mr. Jeffrey Baptist, the country manager for Line, to give us some further insight into the status of the telephone company at this point.
Good evening. Thank you very much, Mr. or PS Blackmore. Let me recognize the presence of the Honorable Prime Minister, Honorable Roosevelt Skerrit, Honorable Colin McIntyre, Honorable Rayburn Blackmore, Honorable Levi Peter, Attorney General, Cabinet Secretary, Mr. Steve Farrell, Commissioner of Police, Mr. Daniel Carbon, Mr. Don Corriott, who is the coordinator of the National Disaster Committee, friends from other utility and telco companies, other government officials, good evening, and thank you for inviting me here. Let me just speak to the state of our network at the end of Tropical Storm Erika's visit on our beautiful island, Dominica. Our underground fiber optic transmission network was severely compromised at various points of that network. So far, as I speak to you this evening, we have identified 8 breaks along the network. I refer specifically to Point Round, where we had 1 break in our underground fiber optic transmission network. We had 3 breaks at Kulibi Street, 1 break at Makushri, 1 at Layo, 1 at Roseau, and 1 at Marigot. Granby to Delicis, including Petit Savan, we suffered multiple breaks in those locations. And again, we always speak to the resilience and robustness of our underground fiber network. And at the end of Erika's visit, and I see my good friend Richard Stanford from DG with a nice smile on his face, because we have always used the fact that our underground network secured in secure docks underground is a key element of the resilience and robustness of our network. But what we found at the end of Erika's visit is that the network was significantly compromised as a result of the flooding and the washing away of bridges and various river crossings across the island. What we have done so far, though, is we have successfully, as I said, identified 8 separate breaks across the network, and we have restored services to the various points that I've just identified. With respect to our mobile network, which is really supported by 51 mobile cell sites, at the end again of Erika's visit, 39 of the 51 cell sites were compromised and taken off air. That in effect accounted for 76% of our mobile network. So 76% of our mobile network was compromised, and as a result, 39 out of our 51 sites were taken off air. Today, as I speak to you, this evening, September 3rd, we have restored services to 46 out of the 51 cell sites. And so again, let's just understand what we are saying here. This evening, 6-7 days after the storm, we have restored services, bringing back on your 46 out of the 51 sites, accounting to 90% restoration of our network. The sites specifically, and again will be of no surprise to the nation, Petit Savan, which is as a result of no access and no facility, our entire installation at Petit Savan was washed away. We have Chekol Valley, again completely washed away. The Douglas Charles Airport to be restored when the airport reopens and service is brought back to that facility. However, cell users are being supported through supporting aligning networks at that particular location. At Layu Park, we have no access to that particular installation, so services have not been restored. At Rosalie, that particular site should be restored by this weekend. We have two sites that have been unfortunately abandoned as I speak to you, and I refer specifically to Petit Savan and Chekol Valley. And again, the reason I would have elaborated on prior, our installations at those locations were completely washed off. So the impact that I spoke to initially, 76% of the network being disrupted as a result of the storm, caused about 30% of our mobile network to be detached from our network, meaning 30% of our subscriber base either had no service in a particular location as a result of the cell sites that were disrupted. Mobile customers who are currently attached to the network as I speak to you now accounts for 98% of our subscriber base. So as a result of the impact, we had 50% who could not use our cell service. Today we have 98% of our subscribers who can make a call and receive a call freely and access data services. And so again, it speaks to the level of restoration and the efficiency and the commitment and dedication of our line team. With respect to internet, broadband nodes, we had 90% of our broadband nodes or internet nodes impacted as a result of Tropical Storm Erika. We have 4% of these nodes still off air, and I refer specifically to Petit Savan, which again, for the short term, immediate term, we have abandoned that site, and again, I spoke to it in the initial summary. Salisbury is still being pursued and work in progress, and we expect we will get to it very shortly. We had initially, again at the end of Erika's visit, 55% of our internet subscribers being impacted, and as I speak to you now, that number has been narrowed to 2%. Only 2% of our internet subscriber base are currently being impacted. With respect to our fixed voice nodes, 82% of our fixed nodes were compromised and impacted as a result of Tropical Storm Erika. As I speak to you now, only 3% of our fixed nodes are being impacted as a result. And again, that number would be significantly influenced by Salisbury, Petit Savan, again, short-term abandonment there. 60% of our fixed voice customers were impacted as a result of Tropical Storm Erika. As I speak to you now, only 3% of our base is currently disrupted or impacted as a result. And so, just in terms of notation, the above is really from the core network restoration perspective. It does not include individual customers who are impacted by issues at their various service points. The fixed break repairs are only temporary in nature, and we will get to it in a more long-term, more permanent manner. The inaccessible of areas have not yet been resolved, and so we expect some long-term, not long-term necessarily, but longer-term disruptions in Jubik, Bagatelle, and Fort Seja. There is extensive damage to outside cable plant in areas more severely impacted by the storm, and I refer specifically to Koleo, Kulibistri, Chekol, Petit Savan, Fort Seja, Bagatelle. These will require, I think, new. In terms of using our regional and international footprint to support the significant effort that would have been required to bring services back on air in Dominica, we were able to bring into the country almost immediately when everything was settled. So the day after the storm, we had 5 colleagues flying in from Antigua, 9 from Jamaica, 1 from St. Lucia, and 1 from Miami. So we airlifted through private helicopter and private charter these colleagues into Dominica to lend their support so we could actually bring the country back on air with respect to telecommunications. We also partnered with Digicel, and again, I think I want to pause just to make that point. I don't think, and take note now because I'm not sure you'll hear me make that point in any other forum, but we've had significant cooperation and collaboration with Digicel. A lot of collaboration and cooperation at the senior level, executive level, all again joining together country Dominica. And so the day after the storm, we actually collaborated with Digicel and actually got a boat into Dominica with supplies and equipment. We jointly offered and donated water to the Red Cross, again to assist our people. And I must say, I think it has to be used as an example that at difficult times we have to put aside differences and really partner for one specific good. And in this case, I think, is returning our country to some level of normalcy and bringing some comfort to the people of Dominica. And so at this time, Lime and Digicel, we stood together and we were very proud to do it. I must speak to, again, just permit me, I know the focus is really about restoration of telecommunication services, but I find it extremely difficult to speak about Lime without spending some time on our community and people focus. Besides the work we have done, and you will admit it has been a very significant effort and we have achieved significant, I think, results with the level of work we have done so far. On a humanitarian perspective, we are also collaborating to lend our support to Dominica. And so we started an effort today across every business unit our company operates, and I refer specifically Jamaica, the Bahamas, and every single market where Lime operates. And our business started a text help initiative where subscribers in all these markets are being asked and influenced and motivated to lend their support to Dominica by texting the word help at a premium price of $1. And once that is done, the initial period is about 2 weeks, but we expect, again, we may assess and determine to continue a bit further. The funds that would have been derived as a result of that initiative will be donated to the relief fund, the government of Dominica relief fund. And this is something we're doing. It started as an idea in Grenada, but it spilled over very quickly across the length and breadth of our network across the region, and every single business unit embraced it, and our colleagues were very happy to participate. So that's one we're doing. We have also received support from our sister business unit in St. Lucia, where we have our colleagues in St. Lucia offering supplies, water, dry goods, and we have donated some of that to the Red Cross. We're expecting a boat on island tomorrow, and once that is docked, we will clear items and actually, in a significant effort again, either through the Red Cross or directly will lend some support to the people of Dominica. So this is something we're doing. Again, all in the spirit of recognizing, while our core business is telecommunications, there's a wider, broader focus which is really centered about the development of our people and our communities and our country. So this is what we're doing. Again, on this Saturday, we'll also partner with Honorable Kelvadaru to do some food distribution in the Bells community, and we'll do that directly on Saturday. So let me just give some comfort to the people of Dominica that I know there would have been significant disruption and inconvenience caused as a result of the network disruption. But your telecommunication services, with respect to Lime, they're still in very safe hands. This was a very unusual event in Dominica. The level of disruption we have suffered across this island, I'm told, has never been seen before. And so we have been tested. But what has been proven out of this test is we have the capacity to recover and rebuild, and we can do it quickly. And my sense is we'll do it better than we would have left it at the end or before Erika would have visited. And so let me just encourage our customers to stay on board, and we pledge our commitment to continue to deliver first world telecommunication services to Dominica and to assist in the development effort and partner with government to build the people of this country. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Baptiste. And I think, Richard, it's now your turn to reciprocate. You heard Mr. Baptiste say it's going to be once in a lifetime declaration, although we in the committee know otherwise. So I'll now call on to you, Richard, to make your public declaration.
Good evening. Firstly, let me recognize the Honourable Prime Minister, Mr. Isabel Skerritt, Ministers Dr. McIntyre, Mr. Blackmore, Edgy, Mr. Peter, Cabinet Secretary Mr. Farrell, P.S. Blackmore, Director of Telecoms, other officials, members of the media, and my newly found colleagues on the Utilities Committee. By Tropical Storm Erika. I want to reiterate that Digicel remains the people of Dominica. We've undergone a number of initiatives thus far and have a number to commence over the next few days. We've made excellent progress in restoring our mobile network. We now have 98% of the sites up and running. This has been achieved, as my friend Mr. Baptiste has already said, with the help of many people outside of Dominica, most of which came in on the Friday immediately after Erika on boats and in small aircraft. Cellular sites on air, which gives us a 98% network availability. The damage by Tropical Storm Erika has severely undermined our site at Petite Savane, which is the only one that we have been unable to bring back on air. The 46 sites we have brought back on air, we originally had 39 sites off air when the storm had passed through. In terms of our Digicel Play business, effectively the network was completely down on Friday morning. Of 9 online, we've made tremendous progress with getting to 94% of the network availability, and in the last 24 hours we've seen through our modems and set-top boxes 89% of our customers are back online. Digicel Play TV and internet service is now live in almost all Dominican communities, and our technical teams are working incredibly hard around the clock to restore services in Coulabistri, Bells, Bagatelle, Dubique, Font-Saint-Jean and Geneva. I will also now reiterate some of the points that my friend Mr. Baptiste made. Having achieved what we've achieved in terms of rebuilding our networks, we believe that this is only the beginning, this is only the starting point, and we need to work on now the rebuilding and reshaping of Dominica. So we have already shipped in three shipments on boats from St. Lucia to Red Cross. We've distributed over $3,000 in free credit to our customers. We're assisting various governmental departments and groups with handsets and credit to enable them to communicate effectively. We're working over the next 48 hours to try and achieve have access to the internet to give them more communication ability. We have also done a text to donate across 32 countries, so we're collecting money on behalf of the country. We've provided buses and boats for transportation for Red Cross to move supplies in the immediate aftermath. We've supplied equipment into the grammar school, and we will be attending the Dominica Grammar School and the have been displaced, and we'll be supplying food and equipment to them. Our staff out of St. Vincent and Grenadines were very quick off the mark. We received the Coast Guard boat came from St. Vincent with supplies from the Digicel team there. Tonight we receive hundreds of blankets and mattresses from St. Lucia, which we'll clear tomorrow when we'll work with the teams out in the ground to work out where that's most effectively used. And I think, again, I would say our challenge now is to rebuild Dominica together. Our challenge is not to lose our camaraderie and our support for each other, and make sure that we rebuild Dominica and make it better than it was to begin with, if that were possible. That's my update. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Richard. And I could see from the radiant smile from Jeffrey's face, whatever you said meant quite a bit to him. It's now my pleasure to also call on to Mr. Peter Barnes to give us a perspective at Mapping 2K4. Mr. Barnes.
Let's see if I can follow the protocols that were established. Honorable ministers, honorable ambassadors, members of the press, and others here present. Mapping 2K4 provides service to 90% of the island. The recent incident disrupted services to all our customers. As of today, 80% of our customers are with service or have access to the service. This represents about 55% of our surveyed area. Along the west coast, the north up to Wesley, and the south across to Granby. Along the west coast, we have Cochrane, Campbell, and Watt Waven without service, and we estimate that by Saturday, which is basically tomorrow, that we should be able to reactivate those systems. The systems in Collio, Coolibistri, Clackhall, and Montrachet were severely affected, and they will have to be rebuilt. We hope to schedule work for those areas to begin sometime about the 21st of September. The whole East Coast is without service at present. We hope by the 8th of September to have service in the areas from Marigot to Cassibus. Further south, from Cassibus River Syric, these areas are have been assessed, and we think that we can get these services up about the same time, the week of the 8th of September. In the south, there is no service in the area from Stowe across to Fort Seja, and the expected restoration date for that area will be provided as soon as an adequate assessment is performed. We are very much aware of the importance of the service to our subscribers, and we are making as much as an effective attempt to get the services back online. If a customer is unable to obtain the service, and we have indicated that the service is available in the area, we'll advise them to please call into our offices to make a report, and we'll address that matter. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Barnes. I must also now recognize in our midst, with much pleasure and dignity, of course, Ambassador Irvin Larocque, Secretary General for CARICOM. Welcome, Ambassador. I will now call to the front Mr. Bennett Thomas, Director of Telecom, to share some of our prospects so far in terms of public utilities.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Let me first recognize the Honorable Prime Minister, Honorable Roosevelt Skerrit, the Attorney General, Mr. Levi Peter, and Honorable McIntyre. And we also recognize in our midst here Ambassador Steve Farrell, Cabinet Secretary, Ambassador Irwin Larocque, CARICOM Secretary General, Permanent Secretary Mr. Blackmore, Permanent Secretary Mr. Later, the Chief of Police, Mr. Daniel Carbon, Utility Media, Mr. Don Corriett, and other distinguished members around the table. Let me try to put some refereeing between the players. So as Director of Telecom, I am the referee between Lime and Digicel. Let me first of all say that when the storm struck on Thursday night, I impact on the country. And I went into town and I saw what happened. I immediately sent an email to the International Telecommunications Union through their area office in the Caribbean in Barbados, whose area manager is Mr. Cleveland Thomas. And I also CC'd that to Mr. Sylvester Cadet, who is the program officer in the area. Within minutes of the email, I got back feedback from headquarters in Geneva, and the head of the emergency services of the ITU actually tried getting me about midnight. And so I called her back, and she told me, Mr. Thomas, we are going to do our very best to facilitate Dominica, because as head of the emergency telecommunications unit, our job is to help the LDCs, the SEEDs, and so forth, and we are going to do our best. In fact, she went further to say that she is from Samoa, and she understands the small island needs, and she said, I'm going to do our very best to help Dominica. That was on Thursday night. By Friday into Saturday, she had already contacted other key players in the sector, including the regional director of ITU in the Western Hemisphere, Mr. Bruno Ramos in Brazil. And then I got back emails saying that we are on our way. We are going to send you 15 satellite phones for key persons and areas, and as well as what we call BGANs, broadband. This is broadband global access networks. These are telephone and 4 of those for you. Put on the programs, and as I speak to you now, I am pleased to say that all 15 satellite phones have been assigned to key persons, including the Honorable Prime Minister and others, the Chief of Police, a few ministers of government, persons in impact areas, and the 3 of the 4 big guns are already located in La Plaine, Castle Bruce, and Granby. So we actually made test calls from them, so persons can now use those services already are cut off. And I want to also commend the Commissioner of Police here, because he is actually the chairman of the Telecommunications Subcommittee at NIPO. We got an urgent request to get one of those big guns down in Petit Savan, and he selflessly gave one of them up from the police force into things. So I want to commend him for that, and to show that he selflessness in that process. So we have all of those already commissioned, and things that people are now making calls fully as we speak from La Plaine, Granby, and Tingay. We told the officer in charge that they need to ensure that they train other police officers as well as other community personnel, because it's not a police equipment, they are national equipment. So if you have trained personnel in Granby, in Castlebus and so forth, you show them how to use it so that people can make calls. If people have issues, they cannot get somebody, you can go on there, go on Facebook, they have internet, they can make calls and so forth. We show them how to use it, so now they are fully prepared to use those services, and I'm very happy to know that. At the EOC, which is the Emergency Operations Center, we have established a communication room, which is directly across on the 5th floor of the financial center. Here we had the services of Lime, and it gave us 5 video conferencing equipment, Mr. Prime Minister, in case you want to have video view with outside world. We have that set up there for tomorrow, so you can get it. We'll have 2 shift systems of operators, 5 each, so 5 telephone operators will be sitting around the table. Number of 440-0011. We'll have 5 persons doing that from 8 a.m. 4 p.m. to about 10, so we have that going up to that period of time. We also are working on establishing other things inside here so that persons can easily get contact with the EOC, so that and very importantly, we have also established in the center. We had Mr. Perry. I must congratulate Mr. Clement Perry. He has all his equipment. He worked tirelessly to get this done. We had Mr. Nicholas George. We had Wayne Abraham, and a number of the operators, the ham operators. We got them in. The young guy in Peter Stavan, Raymond. I want to say though that in my capacity as Director of Telecoms, we are presently working with the CTU, the Caribbean Telecommunications Union, to have a common regional and harmonized frequency plan. And I think the use of ham operators is critical. I mean, I went to some meetings, and in those meetings we had actually ham operators in the thing, and that is very important, especially in times of emergency. And before I close, the ITU has told us that they are going to ensure that going forward, Dominica has certain plans in place for emergency telecommunications, and they might likely telecommunication. Mrs. Giza, or you call her Nisa, Nisa Fatwai Purcell, who is the head of the telecommunications unit, is going to ensure that we have those things. So I want to congratulate everybody. I am very happy to see the collaborative work with the service providers, and I'm glad that as we go forward, Mr. Baptiste and Mr. Stanton will become the best of friends. Thank you very much.
Okay, I wanted to also remind the general public and the viewers that, as far as I know, and I have seen, Jeffrey Baptiste and Richard Stanton are personal friends. What we are concerned about is they becoming corporate friends. So we're interested about corporate friendship here, not personal friendship. That being said, I just want to give some of the further clarity based on the Domlec present status. As the general manager said earlier on, the customer base around 1,017 persons are currently out of service. Important, and it's by no coincidence it's there, because whenever you ask him for something, he wants to see some schedule and timelines. So that being said, she has given us the assurance that the areas are with motorable access and other reliable forms of access will certainly have the power restored within this week. And for those that we are not certain about yet, once we get it up and running and reinstated, that we would see power restored in these areas the week after next. So that is much comfort and importance to us at this point. It's by no coincidence that we have Chief with us tonight, the Chief of Police, Mr. Daniel Carbon, because he also wears the hat of being the chair of Telecoms, and of course there is almost a seamless coexistence between public utilities and of course telecommunications. So it's indeed again a very good honor for me to introduce the Chief of Police to give us some perspective in terms of the national security issues, because at this point we know the police has to be search and rescue, relief, distribution, transportation, and still have to maintain law and order, and more importantly to ensure that there is a very big Daniel Carbon, the Commissioner of Police, to give us the perspective as to where we are at this point.
Let me first recognize Honorable Raymond Blackmore, Dr. McIntyre, the Attorney General, Mr. Peters. Let me recognize Mr. Erika Lawak, Ambassador and Secretary General
to CARICOM, heads of utility companies, PS later, the CAPSEC, Mr. Don Corrett, and Brigadier General from Belize, members of the media, and other invited people present. It is the first time since the passage of Tropical Storm Erika that I would have to make a statement. And so, before I say anything, let me, on behalf of my family and the rank and file of the Commonwealth of Dominica Police Force, to express my deepest sympathies to those who lost members of their families, and also understand that take a mortgage in a bank of $250,000 to build a house, and you have to spend a lifetime paying that. And in a matter of half an hour, your lifeline, your whole lifeline is gone. It's really heartbreaking. So my sympathies go out to them. Since the threat that Hurricane Danny posed to us, 2 days before the passage of Danny, posing that threat, my senior management team and I took a decision to suspend all days off for members of the Commonwealth of Dominica Police Force. And so Danny spared us, but the Met Office gave an advisory that we should pay attention to Tropical Storm Erika. And so we continued that order that all members of the CDPF would not be granted days off. And so Erika struck, and that immediately after Erika struck, we issued an order that everybody on vacation leave must return. Most return, and that is those who are on island. But those who are out overseas could not return, and some of them are trying to return. By virtue of we suspending days off and calling back people who are on vacation leave, has strengthened our human has already deployed in Roseau, in the city of Roseau, responding and making their evaluation of what was happening. And then by 4 p.m. the very afternoon of Erika Thursday, we had Coast Guard boat to transport them to Stowe to see how they could do a landing, and with the intention of going to Petit Savan. They did the landing. In addition to that, there were 5 fire officers with them, a team of 15. And all from midnight and 1 o'clock after the storm, a.m., that would be Friday, the officers had to traverse from Stowe through Bacatel down to Petit Savan over several threatening landslides. And I for one cannot ever not recognize that level of commitment and devotion. Yes, they are police officers and they've sworn to do a job, but then I can say that without any fear of contradiction that many people in other lives and other professions probably would not have taken a chance to cross through Bagatelle and Font Saint-Jean and down to Petit and even remain in there. By the second day, the third day after Erika, there were 30+ police officers deployed in Petit Savan. With them, there were some members of the RSS Antigua Police Force, 5 of them, and they were there. And they too, it was a tremendous challenge to them. And so we started our search and rescue operations, both on land and on sea. We had tremendous help from the Coast Guard. I must commend the Coast Guard very highly. The St. Lucia Coast Guard came in, and even the Coast Guard face a tremendous challenge because there were several logs on the sea which caused serious damage to both our safe boats and the St. Lucia cutter. But having said that, the men continued working well, continued doing the search and rescue, and right down to search and recovery. We have deployed, since after Erika struck, we have been having police officers deployed in the city of Roseau and on the north of the island, especially at Melville Airport, in the Marigot area and Portsmouth. And we have officers deployed at every shelter. We have police officers deployed at every shelter, wherever they are on island, at Buffet State, Grammar School, Granby Primary, Granby Secondary. We also have officers deployed with our foreign forces. And speaking about the foreign forces, I must say that I can express profound gratitude to Barbados. Barbados sent us Barbados through the RSS. We have Antigua. We have 18 defense forces. St. Vincent and we have 13 defense. And Venezuela, well, you would have heard 63 military personnel and military vessel ship. We have 150 military personnel from the British, and so the efforts are ongoing. I can say that I have received informal information that the captain of Venezuela is very much impressed as to the level of coordination and what he has seen happening with our efforts, the state effort at giving relief supplies and evacuation and search and rescue. That is the information I'm getting. As it relates to death, we have recovered 11 bodies so far, and I'm advised that we're missing 22 people, most of them feared dead, if all not feared dead. I received, and I must say that is unconfirmed reports, that there have been 2 bodies sighted in Tragufier in Guadeloupe, that is in the sea, and it is believed that they are Dominicans, so we're following up on that report. And before I just came here, we also got a report that there have been bodies kind of surfacing in the Piditsaban area, in the area of the slide. It is kind of difficult to recover those bodies based on what has happened there on the landslides, and obviously there will be an advanced stage of decomposition. We'll try to see how we can recover it. I must say that I am very much satisfied and probably even impressed as to the way our citizens conducted ourselves, and that must not go unnoticed. Because the citizens face, especially in the areas that are worst struck, Kolibistri and Koliho and Piditsaban and Whitaker and Delis and Good Hope, Saint-Sauvé, Bagatelle, Saint-Jean. In situations like that, things can get very disturbing, and people can be very dispersed. And so I'm very much satisfied and even very impressed as to the level of their conduct. They bear the patience and the exercises a certain level of conduct that made our job easier. And so we must applaud them for that. I ask the communities that are affected, and even those who are not affected, continue working with the police, continue working with the security forces that are here to help you. They came here to help you and to make things easier. We will try our best as far as it's practicable to do so, to help those that are affected. We have a mandate, we cannot relent on it. We are paid to do a job, and I must say, every day and every intermittently at hours, we have in briefings We're having pep talks. We're trying our best to motivate the men, and they are very highly motivated. They are at headquarters, we deploy them, and we provide 24-hour security where we have to do it. And so I pray, I have hope and faith, and I pray for those who struck and their families, and I know by the grace of God that they will get help. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chief. On that solemn note, I also must remind us that today and tomorrow declared official days of mourning. And of course, I think that was the spirit in which we could see some of the reverence that was paid by the Chief. Of course, it would be inexcusable of me not to take the instructions or to recognize the need for calling onto the head table at this point our distinguished son of the soil, Ambassador Erwin Larocque, who is, of course, the Secretary General of CARICOM, to share with us some words. So it's my pleasure to call to the microphone at this point, Ambassador Larocque.
Thank you very much, yes, Cabinet Secretary, colleagues all, members of the media. Since it's myself the first time I'm speaking publicly, certainly in Dominica, I wish to take the opportunity to extend deepest sympathies to the persons who lost their family and friends, and indeed to all Dominicans, whether they're resident here or abroad, because they're all feeling the pain that is going on. I've come, just got off the aircraft and came to see in what way I can assist a little more from the ground. We've been coordinating with the Prime Minister from day one and trying to see how, from my vantage point, to mobilize support both regionally and internationally in the recovery efforts. Many of our regional institutions are stepping forward. As part of the CDM troop. Along with me this evening, three medical persons came in from CAFA, epidemiology, with Dr. Ricketts and others. This briefing, it is tremendous to get information out to people out there, and calls from ministers of government and others tune in. Keeping Dominicans here in the international. I've been listening, as I said, and Prime Minister has indicated from part of the donors conference that took place. Another one took place again this morning, Prime Minister, and that's why and Mr. Marie has represented me, Percival Marie, another son of the soil, has represented me at these meetings. Of things going on, and ordinary persons in the streets throughout the region, call and ask, how can we assist, what can we do? So there's a tremendous amount of outpouring. So as I said, I'm here to see what I can assist. The government of Guyana, before I left, has asked me to inform EPM that they'll be doing a consignment of rice to Dominica next week. And we'll be waiting when I get back to see what are the very specific needs you have. They're also willing to offer military personnel if that is needed. And the private sector of Guyana has come forward, and the private sector of Trinidad and Tobago, Barbados, they're also coming forward and wanting to know how they can assist. So I'm basically here to lend support, both in my own capacity as a son of the soil, but also in my capacity as Secretary General and the international contacts and regional contacts which I can bring to bear on this effort. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Larocque. And of course, at this point, we would like to invite the media to. I would just ask of you that you recognize yourself and maybe say which media house you're representing and who you would like to pose the question to. Do we say is the dean of the media house?
Good evening to you, sir. Curtis Matthew from DBS Radio. My question is for the General Manager of Domlec, Mrs. Celia Mackenzie. I probably will ask the police chief my friend a question later on. Yeah, Mrs. Mackenzie, the 1,070 people you said are without electricity at the moment, what will be the fate of these people? Could you tell us exactly what is going to be the fate of these 1,070 people that you mentioned?
Curtis, good evening to you. Can you explain what you mean by the word fate in this context?
Well, when you spoke, the impression you created was that you're not sure yet exactly when that electricity would be restored to these people. So can you now give us an idea when you expect electricity to be restored to these people? There's 1,070 people you mentioned.
Okay. In terms of, in the 1,070 would be the 178 in that 57. So we can remove these from that because they are in other areas of Dominica and the place is inaccessible. And from a health and safety standpoint, we'd be very hesitant to send our staff to this area.
So you're saying that nothing will happen in Bilisava?
Saying that. I'm saying when we have access, we will go in. We are LV lines and that kind of thing. And I did mention that but besides in the homes of the persons which have been compromised, and so persons would have to get an electrician to look at the issues for them and then go to the earlier on I did and what would be it again. Men was actually to working on trying to restore power. And to helicopter today to scout, to assess, to see what is the problem on the ground with a view to restoring all these areas. Clark Hall, there are down poles. We have to access to provide repairs is a problem in Clark Hall. There are down. In fact, yesterday I was at Kulibi Street. I was just informed that above the power. However, with Kulibi Street, we are installing that is at these persons and certain areas will have what we call low. We are working on it. Campbell, few customers its population anyway. Does that suffice?
We'll see what happens later.
Okay.
You've got for the men, in the mafia himself.
All right, thank you very much. Good evening again. Process of doing estimates. So many of them have been restored. All and do more permanent work.
Yes, members of the media.
Well, unless my friend is going to ask the question, I will take a break now to allow the Prime Minister to find the word. But I think my friend is going to ask the question.
You mentioned several police officers and individuals are here to assist in the security and other aspects of the recovery process. So is there a central command or control point, and how is that structured?
Yes, as Chief of Police, the regional forces fall directly under my command, and the regional forces, they are based at Mount Bruce, and system where they can communicate both with me and the Chief of Police or Chief of Defense staff from the island they come from. So there is a structure in place.
Were any of the officers directly impacted, or their members, and if yes, how is the force going to support or assist them?
Yes, I have a report. I spoke to Sergeant Edwin Francis before I came here. He's from Petit Savan, and he informed me that his house is overhanging a landslide, and so his house is gone. And I know also that Corporal Maxime Bells, even shortly after the storm, the rain had subsided, the river was undermining his house in Campbell, and so he had to go there to their family. So I know for sure those two. I also have another Corporal Hans Francis in Petit Savan. His house is okay, but he has concern because everybody in Petit Savan were evacuated, and he's stationed at Cassibus.
Thank you, Chief. I will again want to address the Dean of the Press Corps. Is there any further question? All right, I will now call on Honorable Prime Minister to give us a few words again.
Thank you, PS, and thanks to all of you who presented. And we want to thank you specifically also for the collaboration and cooperation that's taken place in restore some of the services that have been interrupted, but also very importantly as we plan for the reconstruction of our country, Dominica. It's going to be, as I said, a huge task, tremendous responsibility, but I believe if each one of us join hands and put our efforts together, we can and we will rebuild our country and seek to rebuild our country not only for the 21st century, but certainly for the 22nd century. And that's what we have to move towards. I want to thank publicly the has been very helpful in coordinating a number of engagements on our behalf, and that has been of extreme benefit to our efforts at reaching out to many of our development and bilateral partners and multilateral partners. And he's here on island to review with us where we are and to see how CARICOM as a whole can assist in the facilitation of Dominica, where we deem CARICOM will be of some service to us. But I must say that the entire CARICOM fraternity has been mobilized. I have spoken to every head of state, head of government, premier, chief minister within the CARICOM fraternity, and they've been extremely helpful. Today, the boat arrived today, Blackmore, or arrived tomorrow from St. Vincent with 100 meters of what you call Bailey bridges to be erected. And we also have a company that is prepared to have them mounted up for us at no cost to the state. Our priority is to ensure that we can connect the West Coast. And I await the advice from the Permanent Secretary on which areas specifically those bridges would be erected. Tomorrow will be another day, so let's thank God for this day as we prepare ourselves to move forward. You recognize I have moved the press briefing from 9 to 7 because I'm not sure many of you can stay up too late, so I've decided to move it a little earlier. But I'm happy that you're here, and it's important for us to keep the population informed on all elements of the response and certainly all elements of the reconstruction. God bless your efforts and God bless your company, and I was hoping that that Lime and Digicel would be collaborating on seeing how they can reduce the rates for us and so on. But I guess the next engagement will be on this point and so forth. But I want to thank all of you and have a good evening. Thank you.